Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today at Filmscape Chicago. My name is Carl Cook. I'm the Vice President of Film and Television here at PRG. I'll be hosting the panel today, Solutions for the New Production Landscape. And so we have some very talented people with us from PRG that I'm going to go ahead and introduce. First up, we have Jeroen Hallert. He's Vice President of Production Services at PRG. And he oversees our film and television offerings within the virtual production realm. Him and his team. So he's one of the smart guys behind the scene. We also have Scott Dale, PRG Director of Cinema and Imaging Solutions, and Scott was very helpful in developing the cinema department over the last 6 or 7 years in the camera division. And one note I want to mention for everyone on the call, you will see in some material there'll be VER logos, but just for those of you who aren't aware, PRG and VER recently merged, and so both companies are synonymous. So some folks still refer to us or know to us as VER, but it is PRG, and so I just don't want to make sure any confusion on that. And so just a little more about Scott. Scott's been, as I said, very instrumental in designing our production values and the prep facilities throughout our 6 or 7 camera offices. And he's also been increasingly involved in LED and immersive technologies. And so through both of that, he's 30 years of production and innovation, and we're very lucky to have him. And both of these gentlemen are going to speak a little more. I'll let the smart guys do as much talking as possible. And lastly, I'd like to introduce our account executive in our Chicago office, Logan Cavelli. Logan is graduated from the University of Wisconsin, Madison, before moving to Los Angeles, where he spent lots of time in production in the field, and he worked with the director Paul Thomas Anderson. And since he's moved back home, getting back to his roots, he's now working out of our Chicago office, our new cinema space, and Logan's going to tell you a little bit about that later on, our location, the services, and a little bit about the space. And so what we hope to do here today, guys, is the panel is going to discuss production innovations and workflows that can be implemented in today's new production landscape. And we'll talk about our locations and how that affects costs and how that's relevant to workflow. Again, all of this post-COVID, but a lot of this technology has been evolving. And so what's happened since the pandemic is really just accelerated this type of work. And so we're also going to talk, which is very important, is the COVID guidelines that we have. We have some very stringent safety procedures that we're going to outline for you folks to make sure that all of our customers and partners are safe and healthy. And lastly, if we're going to have, we're going to try and leave 15 minutes here at the end for Q&A. So if everyone would just reserve the questions until then, and we'll have a bit of an open forum at the last 15 minutes. Before we do that, I'm just going to share one of our extended reality shoots, what we call XR, our stage in Los Angeles. And this is from a client, Massimo, with director Mark Henson. And we put this video together just as a marketing material for our customers. And Aaron, if we could take a look at that, go ahead and roll whenever you're ready.
So we're here at PRG, day 1. We're doing commercial for Massimo, and we're using LED walls with 3D virtual elements.
So what we're doing here is we're using a technique, an LED wall, which tracks to the camera, and we can move the set around us in real time and change sets and change backgrounds. So we have the math of this that should add up to the math of that, but it might not. So you have some flexibility, but once we put that wall up, we have none.
This is one of the first times that we're using these many props in this kind of setup too.
Once she gets up, you'll be seeing a couple of these things move. By the time she's here, she's probably in the new environment.
I'm in communication with Mark, who's on stage, and he's
directing. I'm just queuing up the music, which the whole commercial is going to be timed to.
Okay. That was great. Seriously, that was great.
Dr. Forrest, dial 1.
There are those we count on to support us, no matter what.
Is everything okay, Doctor?
Whether we see them or not, we need to know that they're always there. For the past 25 years, Massimo has been monitoring patients in hospitals around the world so that doctors and nurses can make sure you feel safe. As new challenges have arisen, we've grown to bring that same safety and support to the place that you want to be most. If we've learned nothing else, it's that when challenges arise, there's only one way to rise above. Together. Massimo. Together in hospital, together at home.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron. All right, so now I'll address the panel here, and to the panel, let's get the audience up to speed on what we're witnessing in our work environments. Talk about some of the productions that we're hosting, and also some of the safety guidelines that we're implementing. And with that, we'll start with Jeroen on the West Coast with PRG's Production Studio Services in Los Angeles. Jeroen, can you tell us a little bit about that commercial that we just saw, the Massimo commercial, and some of the technology that was deployed on that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Carl. So the commercial we all just witnessed, funnily enough, was not only a commercial for a shot on the XR stage under COVID measures, but the actual company also makes and provides people in the medical world with all different kind of tools in dealing with the whole pandemic and sickness. But going back to the actual technology of the shoot, and today I'm part of the team that's supporting another shoot on the same stage. That's why I'm wearing this little bracelet. Everybody coming in this morning had to have a test on site, giving you the results within 20 minutes. And that enables productions on our stage to, first of all, to do the production, of course, but also we have set up, and all of what we're talking about today, you can find back on our website and social media in documents and in videos. But doing productions under COVID measures really made us rethink the whole production process. Pre-corona, virtual production was starting to play a significant role, but Corona / COVID really pushed it out hard the door and made us rethink how we do productions in terms of working together, how many people you put together in a space, in a room, social distancing between workstations. All of these things we had to rethink and implement in our studio, and that made it possible quite early on. We have been doing shoots and productions since late May, early June, in our own spaces, which we completely redesigned in order to do it. So it's been exciting. It's been stressful at some point, because you not only your own teams, but also your visiting teams, your visiting productions have to follow a specific set of rules. But all in all, I can only say that even with the production we have today, it's been going very, very smooth.
That's great, Jeroen. And if you could, just for the audience, can you just take a few minutes and describe some of the technological elements that our viewers saw in that clip?
Sure. We'll talk about it more in detail a little bit later on. But what you saw on the clip just now is a relatively small LED setup. So we have an LED floor with 2 LED walls, quite high res. The walls are a 2mm pitch. The floor is a 4mm pitch. We also have camera tracking in the room. We track the camera into the space. So on top of the camera, there's a little system mount that talks with reflectors in the sky and through triangulation, we know exactly where the camera is in space. We combine that plus the lens information, which we're reading in real time. Add to that the actual lens profile. That all goes into the media server. And in the media server, we bring also the 3D environment that was created for this shoot. And for this specific shoot, it was done with Unreal. So bringing the two together through the media server disguise makes it able to have the camera float around in that space and have the background react in real time to it. So that means that there is very little post to do, because as we say on the XR stage, we don't fix it in post, we plan it in pre-production. So before a production comes on set, that whole environment is created. Everything is there, all the way from lighting to the scaling of the actual set, combining it sometimes with real set pieces. So once production comes on set, within a 3-day time period, we can shoot a commercial like this in real time and have the DP and the filmmakers control over almost everything in real time on the set. It's really great.
Excellent. Okay, so we're going to touch obviously more on that, and we'll bring Scott into the discussion. In the meantime, let's quickly go to Logan. Logan's in Chicago. Logan, can you tell us about some of the projects that we're working on in that market and a little bit about the new facility?
Yeah, so PRG Camera Chicago is a new facility. It's located inside Cine City, which is a newly renovated 10,000 square foot filmmaker campus and hotel that's right next to Cine Space on Southwestern Avenue. We have over 6 prep bays, state-of-the-art lens projection room, machine shop, and lots of ample production space to cater to the recent booming industry here in Chicago. Right now, we've just begun prep on the NBC Dick Wolf Chicago 1 series, Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, and Chicago PD. And also this week, we had a 5-camera special that will air sometime during Fashion Week. But it's pretty exciting to be here in Chicago right now, because it's quite a change of pace for the city, in that we have now a dedicated campus that's specifically designed for cinematographers, filmmakers, and directors of photography to take advantage of what's now one of the largest global inventories of cinema style cameras and lenses on the market. And then, just being 10 miles away from our 95,000 square foot depot, that really brings it all full circle, where we can truly provide a 360-degree full production package, which can include lighting, enhanced environments, installations, and broadcast systems engineering. Yeah, it's you guys got to come check it out. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is very impressive. I've been there a few times, and of course, we would have had an open house by now, but the world as it is. So as soon as the world rightens itself, we will be hosting an open house. But Logan, thank you very much. And can before we go, can you tell us and tell the audience a little bit about the safety guidelines and protocols we have for that office?
Yeah, our approach complies with governmental guidance and administrative controls pretty much across North America. We do everything to ensure the safety of everyone that comes into our buildings or any of our work sites. All of our North American facilities adhere to these strict guidelines and rules depending on local regulations. But for instance, if you come into any of our locations, we'll do a temperature screening and provide a wellness declaration, as well as those wristbands that you saw your own wearing, that indicates compliance for everyone coming into this facility. In Chicago and many of the other locations, we use our Smart Scan thermal scanner, which is a standalone unit that we also rent out to productions and venues. And these things are capable of screening up to 700 people per hour. And all that data is completely anonymous. So all employees and visitors are required to wear approved face coverings at all times within a PRG facility or any of the premises. We have sanitizing stations with extra PPE located in the entrances and common areas and near time clocks and kitchens and bathrooms. And really, we just use common sense coordination in order to reinforce social distancing. And we have clearly marked work zone capacity areas and other visual reminders to help people avoid in-person gatherings and, stagger lunch or break times and maintain appropriate capacity, while controlling all the entrances and exits and neutral zones. And if anybody, we document everybody that comes into the facility, and should anybody be exposed to COVID-19 or start experiencing symptoms at our site, we've outlined the appropriate response, including a quarantine, full contact tracing, and notifications of any others who may have been in contact with that person who tested positive. So it's pretty thorough, but all that information is available on our website, which we encourage you to go look at.
That's great, Logan, thanks. And I'll open this up also to Scott quickly. So cameras are exceptionally high touch items in all of the accoutrements and zoom, focus, and eyepieces. And so could you discuss a little bit about our sanitation procedures for that? And Scott, feel free to add anything from your side in Los Angeles as well. But Logan, you can start.
Yeah. We've basically standardized the enhanced equipment and facility cleaning measures as part of our QC process. Each facility has a assigned safety and compliance officer to ensure that all these protocols are met and their updates are continuously met. I don't know if Scott can add anything on that, but
we've been I'm going to say that we've probably sent out 700 or 800 cameras in the last couple months. Everything stopped all at once, of course, and all the gear returned, or most of it. And then slowly we've been picking up steam, especially in our LA office, which is where I'm located right now. Most of the shows have been unscripted shows for television. Movies and scripted shows are just now starting to come back. NCIS LA is one of the shows that we do camera on, and they prepped last week. They start shooting on Tuesday. NCIS New Orleans, out of our New Orleans office, they were supposed to start prep this week, but because of the hurricanes, they got pushed forward a couple weeks. And then in Chicago, we've got the Dick Wolf shows, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med. They're all coming back in the next 2 to 4 weeks as well.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. And Scott, since we have you, real-time visualization obviously is a tremendous selling point for XR, but we do have other service offerings for our customers. One of those being NCAM. So, Scott, could you briefly describe what the NCAM technology is and in what scenarios you might recommend that to a production?
Sure. We actually had an NCAM set up at Filmscape last year on the show floor. But what NCAM is a real-time tracking solution for camera, just like Stipe that Jeroen mentioned a bit ago. Stipe uses reflectors. NCAM actually looks for contrast points in front of the camera. It's a hardware and software solution together, such that you can on set look at previs at CG created characters or dragons or monsters or set extensions as well. And with NCAM, though, it's primarily been green screen. We're just working on trying to incorporate it into a Mandalorian type set with LED as well. But most of the shows that we've done NCAM with have been larger TV movies or television shows, Game of Thrones, Man in High Castle, or big features like Thor Ragnarok and Aquaman. And on Midway we did set extensions on the Battleship. and the aircraft carriers.
Great, Scott. And I'll open this up to the panel here. Our next question. What other solutions can be implemented to achieve cinema quality content with reduced location availability, work zone requirements, and smaller crews?
I would say that you know what we're seeing in Chicago is a lot of live streaming packages going out, where a lot of these people are doing interviews and panels just like this virtually, and we've kind of dialed in a solution to basically ship each party their own cinema quality live streaming package, and it's all plug and play kind of stuff. The other thing I would note is that as things start to get a little bit more compartmentalized, we are seeing that each department within a production is basically getting their own video village package. So we're putting a lot more wireless units and kits in different productions. And I would say that the biggest change so far is the remote viewing that we're seeing. So a lot of people are directing, you know, you can live stream your content to the producers in New York or across the country, and basically keep everybody distanced, but all viewing the same image in real time.
Thanks, Logan. Yaron?
Yeah, it's the film business, whether it's scripted TV, feature film, or TV, always been powered by the capabilities of current available technologies. Be it about the invention of the color television or the progress of cinema-related technology to special effects capabilities, the adoption of new technology is clearly impacting the way we produce and consume movies and other video-related entertainment products. A few years from now, extended reality-powered experiences will become accessible for large mainstream markets. I would suggest we have a look at the last few years of enhanced environments with the combined companies VER and PRG, and how this process really has evolved under COVID restrictions. I brought it up earlier, but with COVID and making us work remotely and do work remotely and plan production processes different, that's going to really drive future virtual production. So we put together a presentation explaining a little bit more into detail what we understand under enhanced environments, and that there's three main categories under enhanced environments. First one is the car process. Some people call it overdrive, but it's basically replacing a green screen environment surrounding a car or any vehicle. It could be a train, it could be a stagecoach, it could be a spaceship, whatever. Scott touched base on NCAM. That's also something we consider being an enhanced environment. And then a little bit what we brought up with the commercial in the beginning on the XR stage is really the pinnacle of what enhanced environments is. But to explain a little bit better, we're going to go in depth into the three main pillars of enhanced environment, which is basically LED on one side, right in the middle sits media servers, and then obviously camera as well. So our work really consists of groundbreaking productions across the globe in every form of media and at every scale. We do have a very strong presence, not only in TV film, but with the product specialists in other markets, which we can tap into. It really enables us to be on the forefront of innovation in this world. This shows our global footprint.
We have currently close to 70 offices around the world. As a combined entity, we're now even larger and more diverse company involved in many areas of entertainment with great depth and breadth of inventory across the whole globe. And we have experts on our team in almost every aspect of our industry.
So this is showing a little bit the umbrella under what everything falls under enhanced environments, and it's all the way down from again, don't fix it in post, but plan it in pre-production, from your development, the breakdown of your script, and then adding in media servers, gaming engines such like Unity, Unreal, but even a graphic engine just like Notch, combining it with cameras, rigging, lighting, actual VFX. And we do everything in real time. We really want to have and hand over the handles and the controls to the filmmakers on set. So this shows schematically how a enhanced environment typically looks like. And depending on the complexity, it all comes down to this. You have your content, the background plates, being played through a media player, in which we can have corrections, from color correction to speed to intensity. All those corrections can be done again on set in real time. And we have the camera who is synced up with the media player. And again, we can do some correction in what's happening once we have on camera what's happening. Very important to notice is that on the lighting, we can use both classic set lighting, but also actual LED panels for lighting, and where we pipe pieces of the content on the background plate into the lighting panel. And that means that now not only your background is looking very real, but also the lighting and light effects that can happen in that background are now piped through lighting as well, giving very nice environmental effects. So let's touch base a little bit more in detail about the LED size. And as you can see, after this presentation, I'm wearing a 10mm pitch shirt today, which means when we're talking about LED, we're talking about pixel pitch. And what is pixel pitch? Pixel pitch is the distance between two individual pixels on that LED screen. So heart to heart distance between the RGB, red, green, blue LED, which is the actual LED is in fact a small diode consisting of three LEDs, the three colors. Distance between is a pixel pitch. And then there's also something very important to notice in shooting in front of an LED screen, especially when you have it in camera, is that there needs to be a blackness, not only a blackness within the pixel, but also a blackness surrounding the pixel, because the camera needs to find contrast. So that means everybody is now chasing for that higher resolution and that smaller pixel pitch. But in fact, what we found out is that there is an ideal, at least currently, there is an ideal pixel pitch to be found between 2 and 4mm. Everything below 2mm will mean that there is not enough blackness anymore surrounding that little pixel. Something else we need to take into account when we're shooting LED on camera is something that Scott's going to touch base a little bit more, and that is an effect not everybody wants, an effect called moire.
Yeah, no, that's not something that you want. That's something that we're trying to avoid all the time. And, you know, of course, our industry's been doing rear screen or front screen projection for many years. And it wasn't really until the last 8 years or 7 years or so that an LED panel, that the pixel pitch was tight enough that you don't see moire on it. But of course, what makes the whole trick work is that it's slightly out of focus. There are times when you can focus on the screen, but moire is what we don't want to see. And actually, I think I've got a slide here. So what you see on the right side of the screen is moire. And I know most of you probably know what it is, but it's an unwanted side effect that can be corrected by changing the focal length of the camera or the aperture. In this slide, the reason that there's moire there is because it's a lower resolution panel, but in this particular setup, we were only using it for lighting. Camera was not going to be looking at it. And we did see it though, of course, with my smartphone when I took the picture of it.
So with LED walls, once we go onto set, we can configure and build them in different ways. All the way to the massive example that Disney used with Mandalorian, in where they speak actually of an LED volume consisting of over 2,000 LED tiles, which are curved around a set. And that's a combination of both hanging and stacking, as we call it. So building it from the ground up like little Lego blocks. Or actually hanging it completely from the ceiling. Obviously, some studios won't be able to hang even smaller LED screens, so that pushes us towards building it from the ground up. But also LED screens can be curved. We don't curve within the panel. That's actually not beneficial for the camera. But we curve with segments. So every individual LED panel will form a segment on that curve or bend.
So let's talk a little bit about the other essential part of enhanced environments, and that's camera, because everything revolves around the camera, of course. Everything that you're trying to do revolves around the lens and the camera. We, as a company, we have cinema camera prep facilities in Los Angeles, Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, and New York, and did I say Atlanta? We have six of them, and we keep them all very busy. We move our equipment around all the time, so the depth and breadth of our inventory is humongous. This is a picture of our LA prep facility. So professionals who take advantage of our camera prep facilities have access to all of this inventory and talent. And from thoughtful design to in-house expert technicians and engineers, the 6 prep facilities were created to meet the needs of our community, our production community.
And then we got the final ingredient in the enhanced environment cake, which is equally important to the previous 2. And that's really the media servers. And depending on the complexity of the scene, the setup, those media servers are being picked regardless of brand. There's many different brands that are currently available, but you need to spec your media server really in function of the shoot you're actually doing. And the media server will allow you to do partly the previous work even before going on set, all the way to controlling the content on set. So different media servers, different setups, and that brings us to planning the actual shoot. So we use CAD software to develop the setup before we actually start building it, and using CAD software, using 3D models of the set. In this case, this was a helicopter shoot where we had to wrap the helicopter partly with LED screens. So that will help us massively defining camera angles that either are predefined through the breakdown of the script, or we can actually advise the DP on camera angles that can be achieved with the LED surrounding a certain set piece. And we can also, before going on set, we can also try to recreate the reflections that are potentially being had on set. And that brings us very nicely into a little video clip, which Scott will share with us. And this was shot last year at Cinegear and NAB, where we had a car process set up. We had a Mini Cooper surrounded all the way around, sides, back, top, ceiling, with LED screens, and it showed very nicely. It's really a nice way of explaining how LED screens can be used for background plates, for lighting effects, for reflections on shiny surfaces. It's really a nice way of showing what can be done on a smaller scale. So Scott, if you're ready to roll.
Sure. So what we're doing is we're doing lighting, reflections, and as we've gotten higher density panels for camera to actually look at, doing what I call green screen replacement. So I'm gonna play this this piece right now.
You know, if you look at films these days and you literally wonder if they were actually traveling or not, it's because of the advances that PRG and VER have been able to make, supporting filmmakers to achieve these shots.
This enhanced lighting technique enables you to run the actual background plates on LED screens outside the windows and above, simultaneously light and composite driving shots. One of the immediate benefits of using a system like this is that the actors can look out the windows and know where they are.
In my experience, actors love it. They walk on the stage and they're always surprised. They expect a green screen and then they see what's actually in front of camera. Like in my case, we shot a helicopter crash and at some point the helicopter started spinning and they just looked out the window and saw the world spinning.
This actually has a big effect on budget because there's no green screen outside, there's no compositing, there's no uncertainty. These are finished shots.
It could be inside a penthouse in Dubai. It could be a spaceship. They could be traveling towards the moon. It goes into the headspace of this company and they can come up with solutions for you. So you don't have to be bound by what's been done before. You can look forward to something that hasn't been done.
Irishman is a recent example of car process work. We cannot repeat the strong language that Al Pacino and Robert De Niro used when they walked onto the set and saw the setup, but this is what it looks like.
So all of the car shots that were used within the movie, believe it or not, were done using a LED environment. So the LED environments also made it possible for the special camera rig, which made it possible for the de-aging and the aging effect they use in the movie, but doing it in a very realistic way surrounding those cars made it possible to basically film any way they wanted it. A very nice example here showing both lighting and reflections.
This was a movie which we did, I don't know, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, Murder on the Orient Express. This was one of the biggest volumes we built up until that point. And it was made in such a way that the end caps at the end of the long part of the room can open up and then you can bring one train car out and pull a different one in. We even built a little bit of a cove, as Jeroen was talking about earlier, a curve. Even though the panels are flat, we can do something like that in case camera was up high, you know, looking down inside the train car.
It's really one of the very beginning of using the word LED volume as a way to name these large LED setups and canvases. Murder on the Orient Express was really a technical milestone in the evolution of enhanced environments, I dare say, both in scale, size, technology, and complexity. And this is a very nice example where the LED is more used as lighting, because the train is actually going through a icy, snowy landscape. So the lighting reflects that, but also the reflections in the shiny surfaces all the way to the eyeballs of the talent is very nicely achieved through this technique. And from that point on, really, we were able to diversify more products used for this process. Another nice example is actually the movie First Man, which Scott is going to share right now.
For the Universal Pictures film First Man, we built a screen that was in the shape of a half cylinder. It was 34 feet tall and about 60 feet in diameter. That's 20 LED tiles high and 57 wide. The camera crew came into our facility in LA. They shot the movie in Atlanta, but they came in to LA beforehand to shoot tests, which we always recommend. They shot tests on 16mm motion picture film, 35mm, and IMAX as well. And then they end up using all three of those formats for the movie. They also built nearly full-size models or partial models of various aircraft, and those aircrafts, the aircraft were usually mounted onto a gimbal so they could simulate like heavy vibration or rotation. Lena Sandgren was the DP who also operated a camera. Paul Lambert, the visual effects supervisor, said that the reflections they got for free, but that's really the main selling point about this. There's no compositing needed in post. DNEG created all the background plates, and of course, all the plates had to be built before production. Much like the film Gravity, which we also use this technology for, the actors can react to the environment since they're not looking at a green screen or from a ball hanging from a string. The directors can see what the final shot looks like. There were quite a few sequences in this film that where LED screens were used. The DP's idea was no green screen, although I think they might have actually used green screen for part of it.
And reflection is really what enhances the filmmaker's process. To stay a little bit in the train team I should say today, I'd like to talk about another recent project, and it's not an obvious one because few people realize that the train sequence in the movie Joker was actually done inside an enhanced environment. Next to talk about this is the actual DP from the movie, Lawrence Sher.
Larry Sher, ASC. Here we go.
A big part of what I try to accomplish, besides coming up with a very specific game plan visually, is how do you give the most freedom to the actors and allow the set to move as quickly as possible to keep the momentum of the day. And I've found that if something's working, keep those actors close, don't let them go to their trailers, and just keep shooting while everybody's in the right state of mind. And what's really great about enhanced environments and the way that the LED technology has allowed you to make these environments live on set, you realize what effect it has on the actors and what effect it has even on the filmmaker like myself as a cinematographer, because suddenly you're not trying to coordinate that background later with the lighting that you're putting in, but you're actually able to photograph it in real time and make decisions and bring the lighting in real time as you photograph it in ways that necessarily you can't do when you're shooting blue screen or green screen. You know, one way we did that on Joker is in the subway sequence. And Todd always talked about that as having almost like a fever dream. That was the way he talked about it. It's like, I want this scene to feel like a fever dream. And for me, what's cool about riding subways in New York is the way the lighting interacts with the environment. And the fact that when you drive by a subway station or another train car passes by or the lights flicker off inside the car, all that interactive lighting is playing inside. The real problem to be solved in that scene was, well, how do we get all that interactivity, but do it in a controlled environment in which we can be shooting on a stage, not have all the distractions of being on location, but really make it feel real for the actors. Once I was like, the only way we can do this Joker subway scene is with LEDs, I just called up PRG and said, let's figure out a solution to this. I wanted the control of all these elements that you pass by when you're in the subway station. And this, without question, we could never do even if we decided to do it real in a subway, which is I wanted the ability not just to flicker lights off and on, which we could have done if we shot it real, but I wanted to make decisions as to when another train car passed us by, when we passed by a subway station, when a section of fluorescent lights went by. And suddenly now we could be inside the subway car, which for the actors and for Todd Phillips and our operator was a living, breathing, moving vehicle for all intents and purposes. And with a push of the button, have a subway car pass by outside. And so that level of control and the way we could put that into the scene, because I don't think people really realize it's been done with an enhanced environment. And that to me is its greatest success.
Yes, and then I would like to just finish this presentation with how we work together with these DPs and people that develop the script. But basically what we try to do is trying to find the storyboard, trying to find the shot planning, through the breakdown of the script, and really work together very closely with the DPs to find the right solution and the right sizes. And it doesn't have to be a massive Mandalorian LED volume. It can be downscaled all the way down to smaller setups. And that brings me to the end of our presentation. Thank you, Scott and Carl.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much. Quickly, we have some time here for Q&A. I'm not sure if any questions came in. Aaron, any questions for the panel?
Hey guys. I had a few come in privately on chat that I'm gonna ask. One of them was about XR content your own. Does XR content take longer to create than other kinds of content?
XR content doesn't necessarily take longer to create. It is a different process than creating normal content, because you have to think of the environment you're going into, and that environment has to be created in 3D basically. And then the only added time, if you would compare it with a normal process, is that you have to bring it into a gaming engine in order to run on set. But that added time is completely saved at the very end of the shoot, in where once you go off set, once you leave the set, once you leave the stage, it's it. That's it. You're done. You're finished. Everything is done.
Cool. There was another one about enhanced environment game engine technology. How can you bring content into enhanced environment without using the game engine?
When you're not using a gaming engine, it means you're narrowing down the controls you have on set. It's basically just background playing. The controls you have there with background means that the background playing you are playing can be controlled in terms of speed, intensity. You can control your colors, but obviously you cannot change within that content because it's just a shot plate. It's a finished plate. That's the big difference.
Okay, I have another question that came in from Michael Capoli. Michael wants to know more about the setup they've created for Chicago shows.
Yeah, I can answer any specific questions, but we're basically inside a new studio. It's called Cine City, which is right next door to Cine Space. So we have all those between our kind of camera hub, Camera Chicago, on Western Avenue and Cine Space, and our facility in McCook. We have pretty much a full circle 360-degree production support team. So down the road, there's going to be a rooftop pool at our location. There'll be a hotel and rooms available for short-term and long-term stay. There's going to be a bar and restaurant kind of on the first floor. There's a few other production companies that are moving in right now. In the basement, there's going to be a film composing studio. So really, PRG is just kind of embracing the boom in production that's happening in Chicago and trying to support that full 360. Does that answer your question?
I think, could we bring Michael in to make sure his question got answered? Or is that possible?
Yep, give me 1 minute.
Great.
I can talk a little bit more about enhanced environments in LED. During these times, we are so busy and getting so many queries for LED volumes. And I'll give you a for instance on the Dick Wolf Chicago shows. The DPs were already asking me for this, and I was sort of pushing. Why don't we do a car setup and have it on a stage, and all three of you shows share it for the season? But the productions were like, no, we've got our own separate budgets. We really can't share anything. But now, in the time we're at now, they're coming back to us and asking us about it because they're being told they can't be out and about shooting as much anymore. They've got to be on stage as much as possible. So bringing these environments onto stage where they've got control and they've got their crew all quarantined in there while they're shooting is going to be a big advantage. We're also quoting out what I call translight replacements, where normally you'd have a painted backing or a photograph outside of a set window and from an interior set. now we're talking about putting LED out there. So changing the time of day or weather, as long as you've got the plate already shot, is just, of course, the push of a button.
Well, I see Michael has joined us. Hello, Michael.
Hi everybody. Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Do you want to? Did we touch on that on your message question?
Yes.
Or did you ask it again?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I was curious. I work on Chicago PD, and I was curious if what if there were new developments. Scott, you kind of answered some of my question. Thank you.
I'm not sure you'll be doing it or not. We haven't formally quoted it. We've just been throwing the idea around a bit, but
okay.
And Michael, we can always, if you want to talk offline or get an email going, we can always discuss it a little more. Thank you for your question, man.
No problem. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, Aaron. Any others?
Yeah, there's another one here. Is there a level of workflow retraining required to leverage enhanced environments in virtual productions?
You want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going forward there's going to be plenty of gear available. Everybody will have cameras and LED and media servers and the whole lot. But what we're seeing already, because it does require a highly skilled level of especially on the operator controlling side of things. There's just going to be a shortage of people. We not only we, but the industry has to start thinking about creating a bench of people all the way down to the film schools, and where we train people in this new way of filmmaking. It has become, if it wasn't already, but it definitely has become a very, very high level of technological experience, all the way from the IT part, people working in networking, making sure all the screens get the right content, but also, like I said earlier, on the media server side of things, especially for the more complex setups, but all the way down also to previs and creating the actual content. It has become way more complex, because the more flexibility you want to have on set, the more that has to be brought in on the front end to deal with that. And then the next limitation will be actually computer power, because that's going to be the next limitation next to people.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
I actually have a question for you too, Jeroen. You've said in some interviews that you believe Hollywood filmmaking will become increasingly more virtual in a post-corona world. Can you tell me about that prediction and how enhanced environments plays into it?
Yeah, enhanced environments or just virtual production in general allows for less people on set, allows for remote working. So combine that with the restrictions we're currently operating under with COVID-19, it's nothing more than logical going forward that virtual production will become and will play more a dominant role into the whole filmmaking process. Because first of all, we can continue making beautiful content, but also we have to do it in a different way. We have to do it remotely. We have to do it with less people on set. And we have to do it more spread apart. So one and one in this case is really two.
Thank you. Aaron, anything else? Yeah.
No, that was all I had from my end.
Okay, good, guys. Well, we're getting up against it, so I think we. Anything else quickly, Logan, Scott? Any panel want to add to the discussion before we wrap it up?
I see Colin Lindgren on the chat channel reaching out to us. He is the programmer board up on Chicago PD and excited to work with us with the LED process. And apparently this is the first time he heard about it. So Colin, can you expand a little bit on your question?
Hi. I guess I don't really have a question. I was just excited to hear about it. I guess if I do have a question, in in what you usually send out for media server equipment in this scenario? I've seen Catalyst and I've seen Resolume. Are there other servers that you guys use?
Absolutely. There's also Hypnotizer. There is Kais, formerly known as D3. And then there is also a PRG VER proprietary product called Mbox. So with the ones with Resolume you just said, and Catalyst, although Catalyst is being used less and less, I think you have the, not all of them, but at least the most used of them.
Cool, awesome.
We do have one more question. We have about 3 minutes to get through it. Ian Scott asked, as an LED tech in Atlanta, are you seeing more studios asking for multi-LED car process or enhanced setups? We can start with that. Before COVID, I would like to see some studios rent LED for a matter of weeks and use it for production, but also move it around the studios from week to week. As things are more contained and restricted, do you think it's better to have more of these setups set in with studios during these current conditions?
You know.
Yeah, we see a lot of those questions in where studios indeed are asking for us to do a semi-permanent setup. The unfortunate thing is with these LED environments is that there is no one size, one solution that fits all. It's just impossible. Every DP will ask for a different angle, a different camera, and that will translate itself into having to provide different pixel pitches, like I discussed on the presentation, different size, a curve, non-curve, ceiling, no ceiling. So the only thing that would make it more efficient, so to say, is when you have the gear actually at your disposal inside the studio, so you avoid doing big load-ins and big transports. So that is something we do see with the studios, is that they are becoming increasingly interested to have direct access to gear and inventory.
You know, and I'll add to that, and then Aaron, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But to your point, now because this technology is going to be so prevalent post-COVID, to Dion's point, it's not a plug-and-play system, and so it's always been challenging to have just a dedicated setup for productions to roll in and out. But now, because of the volume we're experiencing, and because of the need for virtual sets, I think now we're going to, as an organization, PRG, now we're going to have a lot of opportunities coming up in the next 6 months or so to have these, what I would refer to as semi-permanent installations, where the volume of work and the types of productions, I mean, if everybody if everybody that goes through Pinewood no one's using trailer process anymore. And so in those instances, we might have an opportunity to keep it as near plug and play as possible. But traditionally on a larger scale projects, each one is very unique, other than the fact that there's a server and LED. Everything else beyond that is a la carte. So good question. And that's something that that is a challenge for us too. But I think we may see more of the embedment, if that's a word, inside the studios. So good question, as I said. Anything, Aaron? I'm going to wrap it up unless we have anything. Okay, I'd like to thank the panelists and the audience, and of course, a huge big thank you to Filmscape. Thank you for collaborating with us, and we certainly hope that next year we can all do this in person. But this has been great. So if anybody, any of our attendees have any questions on any of the technology that you heard about today, or safety protocols, or our new facility in Chicago, you can go to PRG's exhibitor page, or of course, prg.com. And then we also encourage everyone to stay in the loop on our socials. We have constant updates with new technologies and all kinds of fun things. So once again, thank you all. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll see and talk to all of you soon.